Hey everybody, it's me, Jerry, from the gas station at the edge of town. Proud to be the newest member of the team. The owners were so impressed with how I managed to stay inside the store for several days without having to leave or going insane that they offered me a full-time position while the regular clerk is out recovering from his leg injury. Happy Monday, y'all. The other guy asked me to do him a small favor while he's getting some much-needed rest and relaxation. He gave me the password to his laptop and detailed instructions to transcribe the journal entries from last week. In exchange, he agreed to keep me on as full-time assistant when he gets back. I get to learn what to expect on the job through first-hand documentation, and he gets to continue his little weird blog thing. Now that's what I call a win-win. If I'm being honest, this is probably the best thing that could have happened to me right now. Ever since the program mysteriously dissolved at the mathematist community, I've been feeling very lost and vulnerable. I've been losing weight and having trouble sleeping. And when I do, I keep having these weird dreams of some enormous being deep below the gas station, waiting to devour us all. Clearly, a mistake was made and I was overlooked. If any of my old brothers and sisters are out there and you see this post, please, contact me. Tell the seniors that they forgot me. I'm not mad. I miss you. Before I get started, some guys in suits came by and suggested that if this blog were going to continue, that I make a PSA. If there's anybody still alive that read the story about what happened here on Halloween, don't wait for symptoms to start. Go to the nearest emergency room or call the Center for Disease Control and tell them that you are experiencing the symptoms of Ramal's syndrome. Anyway, back to the journal. I'm going to do my best because the guy's handwriting is awful, but here's the parts I could read. Here. 11/07/2007, 7 p.m. The man in the trench coat was standing out back when I went to take the garbage out tonight. I don't know why the man in the trench coat keeps visiting my store, or why I've never gotten a good look at him. He was standing at the tree line just beyond the dumpsters, staring as he ever did. Tonight, I stared back. The hinge of his jaw began halfway up his face, where his nose should have been. The edges pulled back to either ear in a skeletal grin. His tiny milky white eyes were beads behind the oily black hairline that hung down, straight in bangs all the way to his cheek jowl. His impossibly wide mouth bisected the head between greasy hair and wet flesh. Drool, I would assume. We stood there, 15 feet apart, staring at one another for what might have been 10 seconds or 10 minutes, until finally the man in the trench coat turned away. His legs bent funny, in a way that human legs shouldn't be able to bend, and he landed on all fours before galloping off to the woods. I don't know if I've seen the last of the man in the trench coat. Holy shit. Did you guys hear that? Oh, this is some crazy shit. Sorry, it's Jerry again. I promise I'm not going to do the running commentary thing. I just have to say, Jesus, this is some weird stuff. I mean, I remember him telling me a couple weeks ago to go outside and talk to the man in the trench coat. I'm super glad I didn't. What the hell? Okay, that's it, I'm done. Back to the transcriptions. The next page is soaked in blood and completely unreadable, so I'm gonna have to skip that part. Hundreds and hundreds of them. She's never seen so many in one place, not even in her dreams. Before she left, she told me that I would see her again. Was that supposed to be a warning or a flirtation? 3:23 a.m. It's a quieter night than I'm used to. The package from yesterday afternoon still sits on the counter where I left it. The label is made out to me, with a return address I don't recognize. The rectangular parcel is wrapped like a Christmas present with red and yellow stripes and feels heavy. I would say it's just the right size for a dead cat. I can't think of any realistic reason I shouldn't open the package. There's something in the back of my mind telling me that to open this would be tantamount to opening Pandora's box. That the contents of this little parcel will irrevocably change the course of my life in a way that may have seemed impossible before. I feel this box is full of butterflies, ready to create tsunamis, and I'm not sure I'm ready for that yet. I think I'm going to teach Marbro how to clean the drink machines. That's 11, what the fuck? That's way off. 3:47 a.m. Marbro is passed out in the hammock in the supply closet. I think he finished the bottle on his own. I guess I'll go clean the drink machines by myself. 5:45 a.m. The hand plants are growing faster than I had anticipated. They're now past the elbows. almost to the shoulders. I saw that the crop had caught a curious coyote that got too close. It wasn't pretty. I also noticed that Rocco was still alive. I caught him sitting on the roof and tossing food to the crop of hand plants. And this is why they're growing so fast. They're eating way too much. If this gets out of control, I may have to torch this crop just like the others. I don't want to. It sends shivers down my spine whenever I hear the way they scream. 7:30 a.m. Carlos came in for his morning shift looking pretty terrible. He filled up on coffee and told me that he hadn't been sleeping too well. The bad dreams have been keeping him from getting a restful night. I wonder if I should tell Carlos about my condition. He asked about the gift wrap package sitting on the counter. I told him that it came with the post yesterday, and I didn't know who it was from. He asked if I was going to open it. I told him that I had a bad feeling and pretty much decided to never open it. 10 a.m. I decided to open the package. Without any fanfare or drumroll, I'll just tell you that what I found inside was a brand new laptop computer. I've never owned my own laptop before, and the only computer that ever belonged to me was a crappy little Tandy 1000 that I put together as a kid. I've always used the library computer lab or the browser on my phone to access the internet. This could be a game changer. The box also contains a signal repeater and some other gizmos. I know this is crazy, but I think I may actually be able to access the internet from the gas station now. There's a handwritten note at the bottom of the package. Hello. I left a comment on your page. There's something I want to tell you. I'm enjoying reading these stories you're writing, but I think if you actually sit down and write out one story at a time, that you will get a lot more upvotes. It's very good. I'm not saying that's bad, but right now it seems like a lot of half stories thrown together. I think you'd do great if you actually write out a whole story at a time. I bet you really could get a lot of upvotes and attention. It gets kind of confusing right now. Maybe start with what you got there and work your way up to now. I bet that would be super awesome. I'm still fascinated, but a little muddled as well. I can tell that you have a lot of great talent for writing. I just thought maybe I'd offer a suggestion to help. Please don't take offense. It's just something I was thinking. I hope all is well for you. Great. Another one of my readers tracked me down. I'm gonna have to figure out how people keep finding me and put a stop to this. Thank you, whoever you are, for the laptop. I'm definitely keeping it. 10:15 a.m. I turned on the Wi-Fi card and noticed that for some reason, there are dozens of secured networks around the gas station, most of which have 4 or 5 bars. The names of their networks are pure gobbledygook, like this one. 1E7G 7C 7TA 11GUY 232331324. Who the hell is transmitting Wi-Fi out here? 11 a.m. A man came into the store to buy a gas can a couple hours ago. I didn't think much of it at the time, but then he came back asking if we could help him with something down the road. I never got his name, but he was a big guy, tan skin and thick beard. He said he was having car problems. I told him I wasn't a car guy, but he insisted that he didn't need a car guy, but he just needed someone else to see what he was seeing. Marlboro agreed to watch the counter while Carlos and I followed the bearded man down the hill and around the curve, close to the spot where Carlos saw the thing in the woods. He couldn't remember what had happened that night. After we got everything sorted out with Spencer and things started to go back to normal, I asked Carlos what it was that he saw in the woods that sent him running in such a careless panic, but he just shook his head and said he didn't know. The mind is a funny thing, and memories aren't the most reliable. I realize that I'm not the only person from the gas station with a list of try and forget stories. The man's car was parked on the side of the road, close to the same spot that Kiefer's SUV was broken down. So my car started acting funny, the guy said as we neared his vehicle. I began to wonder why we walked this whole way when our own vehicle would be quite useful in case of dead battery or random bear attack. The guy kept going. I pulled over onto the side of the road when my electricals all started going haywire. I killed the engine. Then when I tried to turn it over again, nada. I could see at this point the hood was open. The man was driving a big black SUV similar to the one Kiefer owned, but newer and shinier. I don't know what's so weird about that. You need us to call a tow truck? The man cut Carlos off. Rudely, I might add. I popped the hood, but everything was in order. I thought maybe just needed some gas, so I went to the station. When I got back, I saw this. We rounded the corner in front of a car, and we saw The this he was so vague about. A small oak tree, maybe 4 or 5 years old, was growing up from the ground beneath the car, through the engine, and stretched upward at least 9 feet. The trunk of the tree had swallowed a decent portion of the engine. From the looks of it, the car had been parked there for years. Interesting, I said. Are you sure that wasn't there when you started driving? Before he could answer, he spun his head around and looked at the forest. You boys hear that? He asked. We stood still and listened, but I couldn't hear anything. No, I answered. Carlos shrugged. You boys know what an anglerfish is? The bearded man asked as he walked to the back door and opened it. Yeah, I guess, I answered. The bearded man pulled up a secret compartment from beneath the floorboard and retrieved a large automatic rifle. I'm not a gun guy, and I can't tell you what kind of gun it was, but it was big and impressive and cool looking. The guy checked the clip and clicked something on the gun that could have been the safety. Again, I'm not a gun guy, but it sounded super cool. Carlos put a hand on my shoulder and slowly backed away from the man with the gun, pulling me with him, but the man didn't seem to mind us one bit. He was focused on whatever he heard in the woods. If I'm right, you boys have an anglerfish in them woods. It's putting something out there to lure me in, make me think I'm hearing something that I'm not. Then when I go looking for the one thing, bam, it attacks. Oh, like a siren? I asked. The man looked at me over his shoulder with a smirk and said, Yeah, like a siren. Y'all may want to get out of here. This could be dangerous. Don't worry about me. I've dealt with these things before. I'll be fine. The man pointed his gun and marched into the woods, while Carlos and I made our way back to the gas station. 2 p.m. It's time for me to go home. I haven't used the laptop yet, but maybe tomorrow I'll start to type up these journals. 11:08. 6 p.m. It's getting dark so early these days. I noticed that the bearded man's SUV is still at the bottom of the hill with a tree growing through it. I wouldn't call that a good sign. 11. I burned the rest of the hand plants. I finally know what's going on. A long time ago, I noticed what looked like a strange marshmallow growing in a patch near the dumpster behind the gas station. I didn't think much about them, except that it was strange that Rocco's brood wouldn't go near them. When I took a closer look, I could have sworn that they looked just like baby fingers poking out of the ground. As the weather was getting warmer, I kept an eye on the crops. They started getting longer and looking more and more distinguishably similar to human fingers. I swear they even started growing fingernails. Sometimes, I would see them bend at the digits to squash a bug that wandered too close. Eventually, the mushrooms started sprouting leaves, and the finger section continued to stretch out, creating what could only be described as hands. Human hands. They would ball up into fists during the day and open up in the moonlight. Dug one of them up one day when we were really slow at work. I called Farmer Jr. to ask for his professional opinion. To the untrained eye, the hand plant looked just like a normal human hand, smaller than an adult's, but larger than a child's. Adolescent, teenager maybe. At the wrist, it turned into a gnarled root that smelled like sassafras, and throughout the plant, tiny leaves were sprouting. Farmer Jr. stood in the gas station for a while, looking it over before asking me if we had any more of those things. I lied and told him no. I asked the owners what they wanted me to do. They thought it over for a couple of days and told me to keep them. I think they expected to be able to make some money off them somehow, but eventually everyone forgot they were there. Everyone but me, and Farmer Jr., of course. I was thinking about the bearded man when I heard the sound of a baby crying somewhere outside. I was alone in the store, and my first instinct was not the heroic one most people may have had, to run outside and see where the poor baby was. My first instinct was more callous and rational, and in the form of a question. How the hell did a baby get all the way out here without me hearing it coming? Something wasn't right. The sounds of cries, which I could deduce were coming from the tree line, were getting louder and more desperate. I looked around for Marlboro, but couldn't find him anywhere. If I was going to investigate the potential forest baby, I was going to have to do it alone. I remembered the bearded man hearing the siren call of the thing he called an anglerfish. I remembered Carlos's sound of crunching in the strega, and absolutely no part of me believed that I would be safe if I went into the woods or that there was really a baby crying out there. But what if? I grabbed a flashlight and went out back. The crying seemed to be moving deeper into the forest, quickly, like the crying baby was being carried off by something that didn't have to stop or move around trees or physical barriers. I walked into the forest just far enough to find the last thing I ever expected to find. It seemed that the hand plants had extended slightly further than the little patch outside the gas station. Those plants I'd been watching and burning whenever they got too aggressive were not as controlled as I previously thought. Because out here, just a few steps into the woods, was a hand plant that I had missed, that I had never trimmed or culled or burned, that was left to grow as large and wild as it possibly could. Out here was a hand plant that had grown so large it had fallen over. It had grown past the shoulder, it had grown its own head and torso and crotch and legs. Out here was a full human covered in tiny leaves, huddled on the ground and attached to the soil by thick talons of brown roots. And the weirdest part of all, the body was one that I recognized. The body, the fully grown hand plant, was Kiefer. I don't know what possessed me to touch it. Maybe I just wanted to make sure that he was real, as if touching him would prove that one way or the other. When I did, his eyes opened and he cracked a smile. He couldn't move. The roots had him firmly stuck in place, but this Kiefer plant could talk, and talk he did. We stayed out there talking for over an hour. I won't go into everything that the Kiefer plant said, but I will say that there is something under the gas station, something big and powerful, something plotting, and I've been working for years in a cloud of this dark god's farts. I felt so terrible setting the fully developed Kiefer plant on fire after I burned the rest of the crop of hand plants, but honestly, what choice did I have? When I got back to the gas station, Spencer was waiting for me. He knew I knew, and I knew he knew I knew. I was halfway expecting what came next, but not expecting him to enjoy himself quite so much. Spencer locked the front doors and proceeded to beat the crap out of me. I'd like to say I got a few good hits in as well, but that would be a huge lie. I don't think I laid a single finger on him, although I did mess up his knuckles pretty good with my face, so I have that going for me. Spencer dragged me across the gas station to the hallway past the bathrooms, past the walk-in cooler, to that big strange door that I'd only ever noticed a couple weeks ago. If it were possible for me to pass out, I'm sure I'd be unconscious right now. "Why are you doing this?" I asked as he banged on the door 3 times. There was a sound from the other side, and then Spencer yelled, "Open up, it's me." The door cracked open and Spencer dragged me into a room that I'd never seen before. It looked like an old office. There was a desk next to a wall of monitors with security feeds from all over the store and the perimeter. Security feeds from cameras I never knew existed. In the middle of the room was a large hole that looked like it had been created with a team of jackhammers. "It's time for you to meet my boss," Spencer said as he dragged me to the edge of the hole. "Kiefer?" I said, to which Spencer let out a hearty laugh. No, not Kiefer. My boss put Kiefer out there and hired me to watch him. My boss is much bigger than some idiot politician." I half expected Spencer to go into the cliché movie villain exposition rant, but instead, he Spartaned me right into this hole. "I think my leg is broken." At least, I assume that's what the bone poking out means, but hey, I'm no doctor. I would be really worried right now if it weren't for the fact that I stole Spencer's cell phone in the scuffle, just as I had expected. Spencer had the same network as Kiefer, which means he somehow has service. I put in a call to Tom's direct number, so I'm sure that he'll be along shortly. Until he gets here, I'm just passing the time updating my journals. Somebody just dropped the laptop into the hole with me. Maybe it was Spencer. Maybe he thinks I'm dead. Maybe I am. Again, I'm no doctor. Whoever it was, I think I might have heard the sound of boot spurs clicking against the tile as he walked away. I guess I'll boot this thing up and start transcribing my journals before it's too late. Okay, so this is the last of his journals. You're probably wondering to yourself, where was Jerry while Spencer was beating the crap out of poor old Jack? Well, I'd gone into town to see a movie. Yeah, I went to see Thor Ragnarok. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's awesome. I guess I'm lucky I went when I did, otherwise this Spencer guy might have tossed me in the hole as well. I was the one that found Jack when I came back to the gas station. I couldn't find anyone anywhere, so I went searching until I noticed the door at the edge of the hall cracked open slightly. I also found a really poorly made bomb behind the register, but it didn't take long to disassemble. You can thank the mandatory bomb building classes at the mathematist program for that. No big deal, just me being my typical heroic self. I asked Carlos to help me drag Jack up out the hole, and then Carlos moved him to an undisclosed location for a few days while his leg mends. When he gets back, I'll let him have his laptop to continue his blog thing. Until then, it's just me, Carlos, and the raccoons. How did Jack usually end these things? Oh yeah, to be continued. Edit. I just caught myself digging. Recovering from an injury sucks. Recovering from an injury when you can't fall asleep sucks worse. Recovering from an injury when you can't fall asleep while simultaneously being haunted by a sociopathic lackey of a dark god with a personal vendetta against you sucks even worse. But what sucks even more worse is having to do all of the above and still being called into work because, as the owners put it, the new guy is a complete and total moron with willful and malicious idiocy that borders on the criminal. And so here I am, against the doctor's advice, at the shitty gas station at the edge of town, only a little worse for the wear. What's really incredible is that I've only been back for 1 day and there's already a body count. More on that later. Right now my leg is in a cast from ankle to thigh, and I've elected to use crutches because, unsurprisingly, the gas station is not wheelchair accessible. The cast has several signatures and messages, which is very strange because I have no memory of anyone signing it, but that could just be the result of the pain meds. Looking down, I can see that Carlos scrawled this message: "Try and stay out of trouble, -C. There's also a message in red crayon: "Jerry was here." A few signatures scribbled in Sharpie, and a little further up my leg, I have to pull my pants way up to read it. This note: "RT Ratsy." Well, that's annoyingly cryptic. I would check the tape logs to see who I let get so close to my delicate areas, but the owners have had every camera in the place removed. I guess there was something about finding that secret room full of security camera feeds to bring personal privacy into the public discussion. I feel the act of removing all the security cameras was a bit of an overreaction, especially with Spencer still out there. The police took a statement and confiscated the remains of the bomb. They're taking this whole thing very seriously, and an arrest warrant is out for Spencer Middleton, should he ever show up again. As for Kiefer, things get a little more interesting. The police were never able to find any evidence that he ever even existed. He had no property in his name, no driver's license, no public record of any kind. The only thing even linking him to this town was a grainy picture in an old yearbook photo. It would seem that Kiefer was living off the grid ever since he graduated high school, and now that Spencer's attempt to blow up the gas station failed, Kiefer has suspended his election campaign and simply disappeared. The sheriff has been sending a new deputy, Arnold, to check on me once or twice a day. Arnold isn't from around here, which is probably why he's agreed to replace Tom as the new gas station babysitter. He's about 6'2", dark-skinned with a mustache thick enough to plant a yard flamingo in. He has eyes that constantly telegraph the sentiment, "Knock that nonsense off," and I have yet to see him smile. I don't know if Arnold will become the next Tom or the next Spencer. Right now, he could go either way. Arnold was the one that dropped me off at work today. I'm not supposed to go back behind the steering wheel for a while, which is fine, I guess. It's not like I'm going to go on any road trips anytime soon. On the way to work, we passed the SUV of the man with the beard, the one staked in place by the side of the road with the tree growing through its engine. I asked Arnold about it, but he just shrugged it off and said I shouldn't worry myself with other people's business. I asked him about the owner of the vehicle, and Arnold said that they think he got lost in the woods, just like those hikers last fall. The search and rescue effort was underway, and he was confident that they would find him, one way or another. After Arnold dropped me off today, I went about my regular shift starting duties. I reconciled Marlboro's till, not all that surprised to see that it was somehow $150 over, or that the surplus was entirely in $1 coins. I logged all the invoices that had piled up while I was out. I emptied the trash cans, and I was hoping that I might run into the cowboy, but the only thing in the men's room was an obese Hispanic trucker punishing the toilet and surrounding air with an unholy fury that deserves its own scary story. The sun was starting to go down when I hobbled out to the dumpster, balancing garbage bags against my crutches and probably looking like a baby deer learning to walk. You know, if the deer were drunk and two-legged and carrying several bags of garbage. The scorched earth near the dumpster was the same as I had left it, blackened down to the subsoil. Somewhere just past the start of the tree was another patch of smoldered remains, one that I neglected to mention in the police report, one that might look to the casual observer like the remains of a human body. Before I turned to go back in, I noticed something odd on the side of the dumpster. At first I thought it was a child's toy, stuck to the dirty outside wall, but then I realized it was moving, breathing, crawling slowly and eating the gooey drippings off the rust of the dumpster. The thing looked like a giant tomato caterpillar, about 8 inches long, and as the sun went down, I swear I could see the thing give off its own light source. The squishy caterpillar thing didn't seem to mind my presence, and even let me feed it an old Starburst that I had in my pocket, a yellow one, because, like all people, I hate the yellow Starburst. The critter bioluminesced a little brighter as it ate the taffy, and I gave it a gentle pet. Its hide wasn't as wet as it appeared. In fact, it seemed to be covered in tiny, clear hairs. You're not so bad," I said while it nibbled at the candy. "Not everything out here needs to be scary, huh?" It wiggled and crawled away to a place on the back of the dumpster with more gunk, and I went back into the gas station. Marlboro has taken up smoking again. He'd quit for a while, but then explained that the suffering he was causing himself by not smoking grossly outweighed the suffering he was causing us through secondhand smoke, and mathematically speaking, it didn't make sense for him to quit. I had hoped that he was beginning to shed his cultist philosophy after the entire compound mysteriously vanished, but now I'm starting to fear that he can't be rehabilitated. Oh well. Today was a pretty normal, well, not normal, but average day at the gas station. We had some strange people visit. We had some normal people visit too. Along the way, I zoned out, finished a book I had been reading, made some boring journal entries, and even got online to browse the internet for a while. There's another package sitting on the counter, addressed to me from a return address I don't recognize. I took a gamble with the last package, and it turned out to be something great, but that was before Spencer tried to kill me, and once again, my gut is telling me not to open it. I got a phone call today at the store a few hours after shutdown. It was pretty late, hard to say when exactly. Marlboro was asleep in the hammock in the dry storage, and I couldn't remember the last customer. This was somewhere in the temporal wasteland between dusk and dawn. "Hello? Jack, listen to me carefully. You don't know me. What I'm about to tell you will save your life, but only if you follow my instructions and do exactly what I say. In the drawer to your right is a pencil and paper. Get them and write this down. These are the rules to your survival. 1. Do not leave the gas station. Do not go outside under any circumstances. 2. Do not drink the tap water. Do not even touch it. Don't smell it. Don't look at it. It's bottled water from here on out. 3. Don't trust your eyes. 4. Barricade the... Hang on. What'd you say the pen was? He sighed. In the drawer to your right. To my right or yours? I asked. To your right? How the hell would it be to my right? I'm on the phone. Right then I heard a car horn honk. It was the old widow, Mrs. Sistrunk. She's another local, somewhere in the area of 100 years old if I have to guess, and at this point, not much more than a skeleton wrapped in an ill-fitting skin suit with vibrant lipstick smeared all around the general mouth area. After her husband died, Mrs. Agatha Sistrunk had taken to buying and collecting sports cars and oversized trucks and racing them around the outskirts of town at all hours of the night. Her most recent purchase was a brand new Ford F-550 with a painting of the Hulk and all of his green smashing glory along the side. In person, she was a very sweet old lady, no taller than 4.5 feet. She wore special shoes to reach the gas pedal and always came to this gas station to fill up because she knew I'd help her pump her gas, something she had never done before and wasn't interested in learning how to do. 1 second, I said to the voice on the other end of the phone. Be right back. Mrs. Sistrunk needs me to top her off. Listen to me, the voice growled. Do not go outside. You go outside and you're dead. Do you hear me? Yeah, I hear what you're saying, I said as I grabbed my crutches to get ready to leave. But I don't work for you. With that, I hung up the phone and went outside to help Mrs. Sistrunk. Old Agatha was happy to see that I was back at work. Apparently Marlboro made her nervous. She said he was flirting at her and wouldn't stop smoking while he pumped her gas. Before she left, she gave me a case of empty light beers and asked if I would be a lamb and toss these for her. I can't say no to Agatha. When I got around back to toss her trash, I noticed something incredible. The glowworm from this morning had formed itself into an enormous cocoon against the back of the dumpster. I can't explain why exactly, but this filled me with some sort of, I don't know, what means the exact opposite of existential dread? Euphoria? Existential hope? Is that what optimism feels like? Again, I know it doesn't make any sense, but seeing this weird garbage-eating caterpillar thing begin the brave journey of transformation gave me this tingling feeling in my soul, like this was some kind of sign. Just when this caterpillar thought his world had come to an end, he became a butterfly. My world has felt like it's been coming to an end for a while now. Maybe I'm also on the verge of a metamorphosis. Maybe the world doesn't have to be strange and scary. Maybe it can be strange and cool. I decided that whatever hatched from the cocoon, be it a butterfly or moth or monster, I was going to name it Starburst. I hobbled myself back into the gas station and tossed one last look over my shoulder at the dumpster to see that one of the raccoons was stuffing the cocoon into its mouth. It devoured the whole thing in a couple of bites before making eye contact with me and dashing off into the woods. Carlos came into the store for his late shift and asked how I was feeling. I told him that the pain was tolerable, like that was the kind of answer he was looking for, and I went back to reading my book. A few minutes later, the man with the beard came into the gas station, and I almost didn't recognize him as the same man that went off into the woods after the creature he called an anglerfish. He'd lost a lot of weight. His beard wasn't nearly as well kempt. He smelled like he bathed in a tub of pee that someone farted in. "Hey," I said when he came in, "you're still alive. Cool." Did I mention that the man was holding a pistol when he walked in? The thought crossed my mind for the briefest moment that I wonder what happened to his big gun. I didn't have time to ask. He quickly found the locks on the doors, used them, then covered the short distance to my register, gun extended and aimed at my face. "I told you not to go outside. You're lucky you're even alive," he screamed before grabbing the store phone and yanking it off the wall. He threw it to the ground with a loud, satisfying smash and asked, "Who else is in the building?" "Well, let me see," I said, thinking. "There's you, me, probably the other cashier unless he went into town again." "I saw one other car out there. Toyota. That yours?" No, that's gotta be Carlos." Right on cue, Carlos walked out from the back and froze at the sight of the bearded man still pointing the gun at my face. Carlos might have been tempted to take action if he hadn't been carrying a 50-pound bag of corn over his shoulder. Instead, he just raised his free hand and said softly, "Hey man, we don't want any trouble. If you're after the cash, go ahead and take it. Ain't no heroes here." The bearded man laughed in an obnoxious way and said, "Well, there's at least one. My name is Benjamin, and I'm here to save your sorry asses." Carlos and I made eye contact. A lot can be conveyed in just an instant if you know the person you're looking at. He was trying to see what I wanted to do. I was trying to tell him to relax. This was neither the worst nor the weirdest thing to happen in that room. "Okay," I said. "What do you need us to do, Benjamin?" "There's something evil under the gas station, and nobody's leaving here until I understand what it is. Because I know that someone is working with that thing. I've seen it. Seen it in my dreams. And I know you have too." Well, he was wrong about one thing. Right then, Marlboro walked out of the dry storage, stretching and yawning. Benjamin snapped him into a chokehold before he knew what was going on and jammed the gun against his face. "Are you listening to me?" Benjamin screamed. "I just told you that the world as you know it is a facade. There's a devil here, and one of you was working for him." He looked at both of us for some kind of reaction, but I don't think he got the one he was looking for. I just shrugged and said, "Neat." Right then, Marlboro surprised the pants off of everyone by half yelling, half laughing, "Let's do this! I'm not afraid to die!" before reaching up, grabbing the gun pressed against his head and pulling the trigger. I've seen a lot of weird stuff working at the shitty gas station. I've been nearly killed once or twice. I've watched the same guy die over and over in front of me, and I've seen things that may or may not be real, because I can't dream, and sometimes I wonder if my mind is making up for that in another way. I've seen ball lightning, people with blue skin, a man with two heads, a talking dog, and an Elvis impersonator that may have been a little too convincing. I've seen so much weird stuff in that room, but this was the first time that I ever saw a look of surprise like that on anyone's face, and it was absolutely priceless. What the hell's wrong with you people? Benjamin said, backing away from us. Ain't nothing wrong with us, said Marlborough, relieved to be free from the headlock. What the hell's wrong with your gun? How did you know I was out of ammo? I didn't. There was a loud thud as Carlos dropped the sack of corn. He was the next to talk. I think maybe you should get out of here, pal, while you still can. Afraid I can't do that, Benjamin responded. Not until the thing is dead, and not until I heard a wet thunk before I saw anything, before Benjamin went limp and hit the ground. When my eyes caught up to the situation, I hoped that what I was seeing was a hallucination, but the look of fear on Carlos's face told me that it wasn't the case. The man standing behind Benjamin, holding a bloodied shovel, the man that had just saved our bacon, was smiling a toothy, delighted smile that he'd only ever made after inflicting the kind of pain he'd just inflicted. Hey, Jack, said Spencer Middleton. You miss me? He stuck Carlos and Marlborough in the walk-in freezer. Marlborough is and always has been a go-with-the-flow kind of guy, so he went into the freezer voluntarily. Carlos put up a fight, which is why he ended up bruised and bloodied and barely clinging to consciousness. From what I could see, Benjamin looked like he might be dead. At best, he was out cold, in a slowly spreading pool of his own blood. Spencer pulled a couple of chairs out of storage and placed them both in front of the cash register, facing one another. He made me hobble over and sit down in one. Then he spun the other around to sit in it backwards, like a cool school teacher from the 90s. I just want you to know, he said, I'm not mad at you, and neither is he. He just wanted me to relay the message. Spencer's face still had specks of blood on it from where he had beaten the shit out of Carlos. Your boss? I said. Yeah, he was upset at you for what you did to Kiefer, and wanted me to show you what happens to bad children. You were supposed to meet him, but then that got all cocked up, huh? I guess it just wasn't my time to die, I answered. That's when the smile faded from Spencer's face. He shook his head at me and said, Die? No. You weren't supposed to die. You can't die. We need you. Okay. I saw some movement behind Spencer, but tried not to break eye contact. It was Benjamin. He was alive, and right now my best shot at getting out of this. He was moving slowly on the ground, regaining consciousness, but miraculously not making any noise. I tried to keep Spencer distracted. Your boss? Tell me more about him. How did he find you? Who is he? Spencer chuckled. Oh, he's got lots of names, but you'll meet him soon enough. And this time, we will not be interrupted. And my friends? I don't care. They can join us. They can die. It makes no difference. By the way, Jack, I want to ask you, did you guys ever figure out who placed that bomb? And I laughed softly. Oh, well, yeah, the police took it. They know it was you. They know everything. Well, almost everything. Okay, in the grand scheme of things, they know very little, but they do know that you tried to kill me and you put the bomb in the gas station. Spencer shook his head again. Wrong on both accounts. If I wanted you dead, you'd be dead. And a bomb? Seriously? Not my style. I think he had more to say to me, but I'll never know. Because right then, Benjamin yanked his head back and wiped a knife blade the size of a large chihuahua across his neck, neatly slicing his head halfway off. Blood erupted out in a couple spurts, and then stopped, and Spencer Middleton was no more. And that's what you get, taunted Benjamin as he flung Spencer's lifeless body onto the floor, his blood pouring out and mixing with the rest. It was going to suck for whoever had to clean all of this up. When we opened the freezer, we found Marlborough had gone all bad nurse on Carlos, sticking clumps of frozen meat all over his face for the swelling. I made us a fresh pot of coffee, and we took seats around the table by the window, just in case a nosy passerby decided to pass by. We put a tarp over Spencer and moved the wet floor sign next to it. For about half an hour, we all just sat and drank coffee in a pregnant silence. When we were all done with our third cups, Carlos finally spoke. His jaw was swollen to hell, but he was still able to pronounce his words with only minor difficulty. So why haven't we called the cops yet? This is clearly self-defense. I've got the face to prove it. Yeah, said Benjamin after some lengthy deliberation. Yeah, let's call them. That would be good, but tomorrow you and me have to have a serious talk, Jack. I called Arnold from the only phone in the building with any reception, Spencer's cell. The deputy listened to what I told him, just the most basic and simplified version of what happened that night, and he said he would be on his way right after he got out of bed and put some clothes on. I called the owners next, and they weren't very happy. They told me next time I should call them first. Next time? Right now, the others are at their booth, staring out the window, and I'm sitting at my laptop documenting the night while the memories are still fresh. I know this isn't over yet. I think the gas station is going to have to close for a day or two, but when it opens again, I'll be here, writing my journals and doing my best to ignore anyone who walks through those doors. I guess that means this is to be continued.